Hello and welcome to another episode of the Make It Epic Wedding Podcast. You're here with Tim and Matt. Matt, how are you, mate?
G'day, Tim. What is happening? I didn't even know what I was going to say there. I was going to say something and then I don't know where it was going to go, so my brain's already fried. Good start.
Good start. Bound to happen on a Tuesday at 10 p.m. So that's good.
That's it. I know. Don't you feel like it's wild that it's like it is winter? We are still shooting a fair bit, I suppose, and still doing a lot of things behind the scenes, and we are probably just as busy. I feel like I'm probably at the moment busier doing stuff at home, like behind the scenes, trying to sort out everything for the upcoming season than I am potentially when it's peak season shooting weddings.
Yeah. Well, times are a little bit different for you now as well. As you've got a 4-month-old baby, little baby Ollie. Life's
correct.
different as a dad.
That's correct.
But there is no one else to blame but ourselves.
I know we literally do it to ourselves, don't we? We've both got pretty busy personal businesses, personal brands and businesses, and then we decide to put ourselves through the ringer and record some podcast episodes.
Yeah, who knew starting a podcast would start a whole brand new business, right?
Yeah, that's it. Who'd have thunk it?
But mate, I am loving it. I am loving where this is going. I'm loving the community that we are reaching and that we are creating. I'm loving the value that we are providing our couples and even the vendors that are coming forward and just telling us how we have helped elevate their experience for their own couples, which I think that is the biggest compliment. For me personally, I just get my cup's very full at the moment. It's very, very full.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? And I'm damn excited for even what we've got coming up over the next few weeks. There's some big things happening in the world of Make It Epic that I am pretty excited to share with everybody, but I'm not going to say too much more because I'll spill the beans because I'm not great at secrets. But there's a lot happening, and it's all come from the fact that we decided to jump on here one day, talk some crap,
talk some smack,
have a bit of fun with it, and here we are. Can you believe it hasn't even been a year yet? I had a look the other day. I think our first recording we dropped was the end of August 2022. So we've still got a few weeks until our 1-year anniversary. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to have to do something.
You've said it now.
After we talk about how much work we've done, we have for ourselves already now, just thrown us under the bus, and now we have to do something more. Anyway.
Well, good thing we know a couple of planners, right? That are really good at doing this stuff.
Yeah, or just really organised celebrants. We know some of them too.
Who can we throw under the bus?
There's a lot. We definitely can call some favours.
Well, mate, how has your week been? Give me the details.
It's been good. I have been getting a lot done. By the time this episode comes out, I will have officially launched my rebrand, which I'm actually launching tomorrow morning, which is exciting. So that will be going live tomorrow officially. And a part of that is just website revamps and just some of the words that I use in my business and the way that I use them, I guess. That's kind of that's changing as well. But yeah, just trying to put some new photos into my website and emails, and there's a lot happening. I booked a holiday. I'm going on holiday next week, so I won't be here, just to let you know.
No. Matt Ashton going on a holiday? Who is this?
I know, what the heck. I literally haven't been on a holiday since COVID finished. Since last lockdown, or even before, obviously before that, pretty much. We did go away for a few days last year to Tassie, but me and Jess and Ollie are gonna jump in the car and do a bit of a road trip up to Byron, which will be sick. Just go up there for a week, chill out, and then do some sightseeing, cruise around.
How good. See Chris Hemsworth?
Yeah, just go hang out with him. I don't know. It'll be pretty cool. I don't know. What's happening in the world
You'll love that, man.
Yeah, it'll be sick. Yeah. What's happening in the world of Timothy?
Well, there's been a bit. I have been off grid the last couple of days, which was bloody brilliant. Yeah. My wife decided to take me away for my birthday. to the Barrington Tops. So we got a little tiny home. So I just got back the other day, which is pretty cool. Completely off grid, no phones, nothing, man. It was actually the best. Like, just to switch off completely, not think about work, not think about anything. You know, pretty much weddings for the season are done. So it was. I needed it more than I realized.
Yeah. Nice way to celebrate your 21st birthday, hey? How good?
That's it, mate. That's it. Yeah, 21 years old with the worst receding hairline you've ever seen.
Yeah, that's it. That little bald spot in the back's never good for you. But but no, like, yeah, I definitely agree. Hey, I'm super excited to get away. I've got a lot to do over the probably next week before we go. Just trying to, like, you know, get some things in a line and yeah, just tick some boxes before I go. But I'm pretty up to date with my editing and stuff like that. So I can only imagine. For you, it was nice to get away. I was jealous, not gonna lie. It spurred me on to book this, actually.
Well, yeah, like, obviously video editing is a different story to photo editing. So there is a much larger backlog for videographers than photographers, typically. Not all cases, but most. So it was definitely a rush to feel like I was comfortable enough with where I was in my backlog to make sure that I could completely switch off. But I come back, man, and like guns blazing, like my cup was full. I was 100%. It was brilliant. I really, really did need that. And I feel like I need to potentially do that more often.
Yeah.
Like, just switch off for a couple of days, once every couple of months.
Yeah, I was weird not to wake up or, you know, like jump on a call with you and try and organise what we're doing for, like, you know, Make It Epic or, you know, what we're working on next for a couple of days. But it was good. I'm glad you had a good time, and it's always nice that you get to get away and recharge the batteries. But mate, enough about us. Enough about how. Actually, I have one more thing to say, because we always say this at the very end of our episodes, but. We would be loving it if you guys, I guess, gave us a bit of a review on the old Make It Epic wedding podcast. So if you're a Apple person, go and jump onto Apple Podcasts, or you can also do it on Spotify. Leave us a little review. If you are loving what you are hearing, we are always keen to hear from you guys. You know, those reviews really help us get a better reach. One day we'll like do something, you know, send you a little sticker pack or something. I don't know, who knows what. We've been saying that for a long time, but we never do it. But we'll actually do something that'll thank you guys for doing it.
Well, there actually is something, I think, and perhaps we may be able to direct your attention if you're looking for some things from the whole bride. You can get a sneaky discount code, which is pretty cool, and if you are a couple, likely you're going to use a lot of these things. So jump onto the whole bride, will be in the show notes, and you can snag yourself a sneaky 20% off.
Yeah, how good. I love a little discount. Discount's always perfect for the budget when it comes to planning your wedding. I even like frothing lately on, I don't know why, but we've been using confetti cannons a lot lately, and the whole bride confetti cannons are so good. They've been going wild. Anyway. Yeah.
I had one go off in my ear the other day, and it was, 2 weeks ago, and man, I feel like it's still ringing. Hey?
Oh man, it's crazy. Like, yeah, it's just crazy the amount of, like, I don't know, boomage that they get. Boomage is boomage the right? I don't think boomage is the right word, but anyway, we'll run with it. We'll just go with it.
Yeah. All right, mate. What are we talking about today?
Today, we are talking all things reception, which I'm super excited for, because we have, like, not neglected, but I feel like we've covered pretty much everything else in the realm of, I guess, like, timelines and just talking.
Wedding day.
Wedding day in general. So, like, I feel like I'm pretty excited because, like, we were chatting about what we wanted to talk about this week, and I was like, man, we've spoken about, like, ceremony stuff. We've spoken about, like, you know, canapes, cocktail hour. Like, we've pretty much covered the majority of the goodness of the day. And so today we're talking all things reception, how to get the most out of your reception, how to make sure you get on that D floor ASAP.
There's 6 things that you need to ensure your wedding reception is going to be epic. And, mate, let's get stuck into the first one. What is it?
we're talking all things entrance, and I feel like when you're talking entrance for a reception, it really sets the bloody mood, doesn't it, mate? Like if you just cruise on in with your hands in your pockets and you're just like, yep, hey, like I don't know. For me personally, it doesn't really set the vibe. And you know, on the Make It Epic wedding podcast, we're all about the vibe. We're all about making sure you guys are having a good time. And you know, if you can, well, I don't know.
I find like we tend to do it a fair bit where we really try and pump them up. Hey, and like, all right, what's happening? Any backflips, confetti cannons? Let's go! You.
On that note, on the weekend, these guys are like, "Oh, we don't really know what to do," and I'm like, "Just do a vortex." And they're like, "What's a vortex?" And I was like, because they literally were just going to walk in with their hands in their pockets, and I was like, "Come on, boys, you got to try something. Like, at least try and outdo the girls, because typically." Being a bit sexist, but the girls typically like to get down and boogie a little bit more than the boys. And so I was like, you know, just do a vortex, and they were cruising on in. They were like, oh yeah, okay. And they all got down on, like, they took it the next step. They got down on one knee. They got their beers that were full. They spun around in a circle, threw them up over their heads and sculled it. And 4 out of 5 sculled it, and the 5th one stood up and like celebrated like he sculled it. And then all the boys turned around and were like pointing at him, so he had to stand there and like scull the rest of it. It was pretty funny. Anyway,
Wow.
But yeah, like we do, I guess, tend to pump people up a little bit for the old reception. But like, I suppose, like, why is it we do that?
Well, we want to create a vibe, but we also want to ensure that the experience really starts at a high, that your reception starts on a really, really positive note. And if you walk in there having a bunch of fun and having a good old party, then it really sets a vibe for the rest of the night. It sets a standard that I think is held quite consistently. And I find that to be true across the whole board, which is really interesting. Like, because even now, thinking about it, right? Like, if we have a look at some of the weddings, and I think back, and perhaps the bridal party are just like maybe a bit chillers that come in. I think that set the tone for potentially the rest of the night.
Yeah, 100%. I also think, like, it's not even just the tone for the couple and the bridal party. Like, it's a tone for the whole guest experience, I guess.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
everybody that's there, right? Like, no matter who's there, even the like staff, like even us as vendors, like it sets the like experience for us up really well as well. And like I would say 9 times out of 10, when the vibe of like and the like level of intensity and the excitement and the energy that comes in from an epic entrance, typically the dance floor usually goes off pretty bloody hard too later on. Like everyone's keen for a bit of a boogie and things like that. I don't know. Have you got any like moments that you, when you think about entrances, that you're like, yes?
I think some couples would really like consider and have a plan for their entrance like prior to. And entrances can look different for everyone, I suppose. And like your entrance obviously needs to be like aligned with like who you are. And even if you're not like super wild or rowdy, but still, I think we will still try and like pump you up a little bit to ensure that you can still have a good old time. And man, I have seen even some of the weddings that, you know, a little bit on the quieter side, that you're just not expecting it to go absolutely off, tend to be the best ones and the most fun.
Yeah, definitely. And like, this is probably a bit of a like, I don't know, a little moment just to remember that like, even though we're all about the energy and we're all about having fun, like Tim was just saying then, like, you know, not every single wedding requires or needs you to go bloody wild. Do you know what I mean? It's more just bringing a good amount of energy to that space that you're in. So, you know, just making a little bit of effort, you know, like having a big old smile on your face, having a bit of a dance as you come in. Like, it can be something very, very simple, right? Like, yes, we are talking big scale here, and we like to do that to know that there is the opportunity for you guys to go hard or go home. But there also is the opportunity to, like, still elevate the experience for everybody that's going to be there by still walking in and having a good old time.
Yeah. You definitely don't have to, you know, boys swap clothes with girls and girls swap clothes with the boys.
Yeah.
That's happened a few times.
Yeah, or like take your shoe off and do a shoey or anything like that. You know,
always good fun.
yeah, I do have a I do think that like some of the like my favorite moments when it comes to like an entrance is like, you know, like there's like been like the confetti ones that we've done where there is like a confetti cannon or something like that that's like the people are like going off, which is always epic. But I think that some of the best are like when there's encouragement of like whether it's like, you know, picking up the old what am I trying to think? Like napkin, that's the word. Like the napkins up and they're like spinning them around, or the encouragement of like getting all of your guests onto the dance floor and having like an impromptu 5 o'clock 3-song dance off. Like, you know, that's always a bit of fun too. I don't mind a daylight boogie. That's pretty cool.
What's probably your favorite? What's your favorite entrance?
That I would say when the couples get really like, so if you couple up with some, like, as in does that make sense? Couple up, yeah. Like when the bridal party come in pairs, guys and girls together, like individually in a pair, that is like my favorite because I find that they like have a bit of a competition with each other. Recently, my favorite has been, this is good. The couple put $500 down, right, as like, this is what happens. Whoever goes the hardest wins, and every single table had a like a scorecard, and with each of the couple's name on it, who came in as a group, right? And at the end of it, they gave everybody like 1 minute to talk around their table, and they scored it. And then the MC went around and collected all the cards, and then whoever won in the pair got $500. And I was like, you know what? That's not a bad way to really bring the hype and really bring the energy. And these guys were like pretty wild.
For payment.
Yeah, like, but they literally were like bribing their bridal party to go harder or go home. Like one of the bridesmaids face planted, she tripped over in excitement and having too much fun and just like tripped over, and yeah, that wasn't ideal. But like there was definitely moments where I was just like, what is going on? There was like confetti cannons going off. There was like shoeies. Someone came in with a croc, like they'll shoot like croc shoes on, and did a shoey through the croc shoes. And so yeah, it was pretty classic. So I would say recently, in terms of like effort of like ensuring that your bridal party goes hard or goes home, like that's probably my favorite.
Yeah, okay. There's one that comes to mind because when I was creating their film, like it was such a main component of their film, especially for the introduction. And it was actually a wedding that we did together. Little shout out to Sophie and Matt. And like napkins were going, and the bridal party, they did set the scene. And it was sick. It was absolutely sick, and it was at Sea Cliff, so they had like 3 long tables, pretty much from like one end to the other. So the only way was for the bridal party and the couple to actually like come through like the tables, which is quite tight. And unfortunately, you were on the side. You were actually in between the chairs, right? So I couldn't fit in there, and all the guests were on the chairs, and I'm like, well, damn, I need to get my shot here. So what does Timmy do? Timmy jumps on the table, and I was about to stack it like over the table, over guests.
There's a photo of you like standing on tables.
Yeah, but like the reason I'm saying it is not because I almost stacked it, but it was because like it was such an epic moment, and the footage was just absolutely unreal. I had one of the guests like hold my pants and hold the belt on my pants so I didn't like stack it, which is cool. But just like that moment where like the whole party,
everyone's
like,
into it.
The whole party was absolutely into it. We had people on tables, people on chairs, napkins thrown up in the air. The bride and groom were just going absolutely mental. It was just such a good moment. That was so fun that it was really the main component of the introduction in their film.
Yeah, 100%. I do remember that one. It was a good one for sure. And I actually posted a few photos from that not that long ago, which was pretty cool. I have a bit of a golden nugget for this section of entrances. We've spoken a lot about it, but this is kind of like to do with maybe just like based off what Tim was just saying. If you have an MC that is like a family friend, maybe give them this golden nugget. And the golden nugget is on the entrance, suggest or tell your MC to tell all of your guests to like stand up and push their chairs in, so there is more room for, you know, like you guys to come bounding down those aisles, because they are quite tight, and it can be a bit of a stitch up where you're like really keen to get down the aisle and have a good time, and you're running into chairs. You know, it's not that exciting, and it kind of ruins the photo. So maybe if you can preempt it, stand up, tell your guests to push the chairs in, and then get ready.
That's a good one, because it's not something you would normally think about at all.
No, and I think I in the past have suggested it a few times to like MCs and stuff on the night, but I'm just putting that little bit of goodness out there for everybody. Yeah,
An experienced MC, like not in terms of the chairs, but an experienced MC will help elevate like an entrance so much more.
Bit of Bruce Buffer.
That's also a common theme. Yep. We have chat about it in the past in terms of having an MC that's obviously is professional, knows how to manage the room, knows how to coordinate, and knows how to ensure that they can actually create a moment that is lasting. So yeah, if you have a family friend that's an MC, there's just a couple of extra little things that you might need to be aware of to ensure if you want something, you need to probably ensure it's done the right way.
Yeah, prompt them, give them hints and tips, have a chat about it with them. I think it's important. Let's roll on, because we got, as I said, we love entrances. Entrances make the day. But before you even get to the entrance, you need to make sure that this part of, well, the whole planning process really is on point. And this is talking about like timeline. And like timeline, we could literally spend this whole episode probably talking about the timeline of a reception too. But I think we're just going to try and hit a couple of like points that you need to consider when you're planning.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously this is going to come way, way back in the planning process, where you really need to have an understanding of what do you want your wedding reception to look like? What do you want the formalities to look like? And my golden nugget here is to actually reverse engineer it. Okay. What time do you want your dance floor to open? And that will essentially dictate the formalities prior to that. And yes, there is going to be potentially some interruptions and some things that you don't account for, whether that's dad having a bit of a longer speech than anticipated, or things running a little bit late. But just making sure that you have a plan in terms of what your formalities are, how long they go for, and when things generally start and what time the dance floor opens. It's really a good place to ensure that you've got a detailed plan in terms of what that looks like as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I just want to say as well, like, you can plan all of this stuff, and you can, you know, like, it will look great on paper. I promise you something will run a little bit funky on the night. Like, it never typically goes to plan, but if you have the plan in place, usually it's pretty damn close. Like, by the end of the night, we kind of get everything done that we need to get done, and every wedding always works out. But don't live to the timeline as if it's gospel. Don't feel like you have to follow it to a T. But yeah. My little hot tip, besides forgetting about the timeline, is probably thinking about splitting up your speeches. So, you know, like for me, I don't want to, and I know your guests won't want to, and I know you won't want to as a couple, sit there and listen to 4 or 6 speeches crammed together, back to back to back. Everybody by the end of it is like running for the bathroom, running for the bar, starving, something like that. So my advice is to split them up. So maybe that may be like 2 before your entree, and then maybe 2 in between your entree. And if there's any more outside of that, do it after main, something like that. Just kind of like give yourself some time to enjoy the night without having to sit there for an hour listening to an hour's worth of speeches.
For sure. I'd probably stick to speeches no more than 3 in a session.
Yeah, no more than 3. I'd even go so far to say, why do we need to have 6 speeches in a day? Like, why is there 6 speeches at a wedding? Like, it's not, for me personally, like, I understand there's a lot of people that want to say stuff, like, you know, but like, I'm like, 4 or 5 is like more than enough. Like for me personally as well, I don't see the bride and groom speech typically being massive most of the time. That's normally a little bit shorter. So when I say 4 speeches, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, maid of honor, best man, parents from both sides, and then bride and groom. Like that's pretty damn good, right? Yeah.
Who's important? Who is important to you? Who do you want to speak at your wedding? And go from there. It doesn't have to be a number. It can be 6. It can be 8. Whatever you want. It is your wedding. For me, as a videographer that uses audio in your speeches, I love to hear those that are just have such an important role in your life because their words tend to have so much more of an impact on your story. And that helps me tell your story to a point where it is just so aligned with who you guys are, and it makes your film so much better. But yes, there is a limit. Excuse me. But yes, there is a limit to, potentially how many speeches can you fit in one night if you want the dance floor to start at a reasonable time. There's been weddings. There's been a few where speeches have just gone so far over time where the dance floor doesn't open up to 9:30.
Yeah, and I feel like that typically comes down to the fact that someone spoke for a little bit too long, potentially. Maybe like some food services out of whack, or because of like that one speech is like gone a bit long, let's push everything else just further and further apart. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a good point. Maybe we should talk in a bit more detail about what the perfect speech looks like and how to create a speech that has relevance and significance to the bride and groom, to the couple. Yeah. Maybe we'll save that for another episode. That's a big one. That's a really big one.
Massive. Let's write that one down for later. But I do think like outside of the timeline of like, go back to the timeline and thinking about all the things that you need to get done. Like, let's just quickly rattle off the top of my head the things that I know that you would potentially need to get done in your timeline of your reception is obviously entrance. You've got some speeches. You've got food, so like entree, main. You need to also think about if you're having a seated dessert or is it like, I don't know, canapé, roaming dessert, like food, like, and if you are having a seated dessert, if you care if your guests are actually going to sit there and eat it, if that makes sense. Because typically the seated dessert can come out while you're on the dance floor and people just go back to the seats and eat it as they please, So if that is something that you're not too fussed about, could be something to think about. There is a first dance. There's a cake cutting. They're the main ones, I would say.
Yeah. I am seeing less and less of cake cutting, I suppose, these days. But it's just another thing. If that's important to you, then obviously you need to take it into account, add that into your run sheet. But yeah, how long do all these formalities take? And this is where it'll start to really add up. And if you want an early dance floor, well, you're going to have to make some decisions in terms of what you can fit in your reception.
Yeah, definitely go back, make that bit of pros and cons list, make a bit of a expectation list, and work out what it is that you do and don't want to include in your reception. As Tim said, make it a priority if you want to get onto the dance floor early. It is doable. And we're not saying that all these things, we're not saying that's not doable. It definitely is doable. You just need to think about it early on and plan for it.
Yeah. Because what about, things like potentially a night shoot with your photographer and your videographer? These are things as well. Typically, this might be during the dance floor as well. So it has less of an impact. But I know as a videographer, that I want to make sure it has as minimal impact to like your night as possible. So this is something that we'll talk about months before the wedding, but we just want to ensure, like, if it's something that you want to do, roughly what time should we start to do this?
Yeah, I also actually was just thinking about then, like, Maybe this is a good spot just to maybe bring up talk about night shoots is also like the fake exit scenarios. And you know, like
another big one.
When it comes to fake exits, like fake exit's the worst word in the world. Like it shouldn't really be called fake exit. Like I don't know, but because it's always this awkward moment where you're like, oh, we're gonna do a fake exit, but we're not actually going, but we're gonna come back inside after, so nobody leave. We're just doing it because we don't need the photographer to stand around for 4 hours to capture the actual real exit. It's just another photo opportunity, let's be honest, guys. Like, you know, yes, we've named it fake exit. Everybody's used the word fake exit. We probably need to change the name.
Dance party with sparklers.
Just a photo moment.
I'm not a massive fan of a fake exit, just because I suppose of like what it symbolizes. It is not an exit. Like if you want something with sparklers, then cool. Like I would typically say, what is the purpose of like this moment? What do you want to do with it? And if it's just to have like some close family and friends with sparklers and have a bit of a dance party, just to kind of like get that moment, cool. Or perhaps is there something else like a night shoot that we can do with just the two of you, where we can still like really like capture just like a fun moment? That's something different. Because let's be honest, those photos tend to not always work out, right?
Yeah.
Like bright lights, it's hit and miss sometimes as well.
Depends how drunk your friends and family are too, to be honest. Like that can really like take into account like, you know, what the day or like, sorry, what that moment would be like. So, yeah, like there's a lot of factors that are out of our control when it comes to like these exits, and you know maybe it is doing one but not with every single one of your guests, and maybe it's just a select group of people, maybe you know like just to get the photo. I don't know. Let's just call it sparkler.
There are a lot of things.
Sparkler photos. Yeah. Let's not call it fake exits. Sparkler photo.
Yeah. So look, there is a lot of things that you could do. There's a lot of noise, I suppose, when people telling you should do this, you should do this. It is your wedding, and if it's your wedding, you should make decisions that most align with what you want to do. And I suppose as a vendor, we want nothing but to provide like information that you can align with, and also be like, okay, well, this is what I want, this is how I see it, and this is the way that I'm going to do it. Thanks for the confidence. So yes, there's a lot of things we could do. Do what makes sense to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I ask a question to every single couple who, like, if I jump on a call with them after they've inquired, I say to them, like, is there something during the day, during your reception, that you really would want to do, but you don't think it's achievable? And
bouquet and garden.
Oh, you would want to do that. But like the reason why I ask that is purely because I want you to know that anything is doable. You just have to start that open line of communication. And if you start that communication with the people that you're having there on the day, you know, like it is possible to do something, you know, maybe it's crazy and out there. Maybe it's not that crazy and out there at all. Maybe it's something quite simple. You just don't know the logistics behind of it, like how to make that happen. But half the reason why I ask it is because I want you to do things that you're excited about. Because if you're excited about them, you're going to be happy in that moment. And I know that sounds so ridiculous, like saying it on your wedding day, you're going to be happy. Like, of course you are, but you're going to be genuinely happy because you're so excited by what is going on in that moment. So if that is sparklers, bloody do them. Or if it's like dancing on tables, cool, go and dance on a table. If it's, I don't know, whatever it is.
We are trying to appeal to the masses here, and there is so many variables. Like it depends on the size of like your wedding. It depends on your venue. It depends on like the size of the venue space. There's so many aspects and factors here. But let's maybe talk about a couple of example timelines. Like I even this week I had a run sheet meeting with a couple their weddings in a couple of months. Excuse me. And their wedding reception is starting at 6 p.m. The dance floor is opening at 7 p.m. So within that hour, they are fitting in 4 speeches. 4 speeches. Within the hour, they're also fitting in dinner, but the dinner is more of a share plate style dinner service, plus the 4 speeches. and dance floor opening at 7 p.m.
Yeah,
1 hour.
done.
How good?
And I would say that like that is totally possible if, and this is a big if, because I know that, and this is probably running into a little bit of like the next one we're talking about, which is vendors. But like, if your vendors are okay with you, and when I mean vendors, probably food service mainly, like your caterers, if they are okay with serving food while speeches are going on, and if you're okay for them to serve food while speeches are going on, anything is possible. But I would say there is a lot of vendors out there, especially caterers, that are not overly keen on serving food while speeches are happening. And I understand why. From like a photo, video point of view, from your guest experience point of view, it can be quite distracting listening to plates tinging and all that sort of stuff. But it is possible if you're okay with that.
Yeah, so there's probably a little bit more flexibility if you have like a banquet style, like of food service, and a caterer that provides that style of food service. But yeah, there's a bit there.
There's a lot to think about. And I suppose on the flip side of like, let's just say for instance you had a 6 o'clock. Let's just say it was a 6 o'clock or 5:30 entrance for your bridal, for you guys. For me personally, it's kind of like I would be thinking about doing something like you're coming in at 5:30, you're going to do your entrance, your 2 speeches straight away. Maybe 6 o'clock you're doing your entree. 6:45 you might do another 2 speeches. Then maybe that might go for say half an hour, 45 minutes. So you're kind of looking at like a 7:30 dinner time slot, or even a bit earlier, 7:15, maybe something like that. And then hopefully by 8 o'clock, we're on the dance floor and everything is happening. So around 8 o'clock, you might cut a cake, you might do a speech, you might do your first dance and straight into the dance floor after that. So like that kind of gives you like a 2 to 2.5 hour time slot to kind of get a lot of your formalities done. As a general rule, I would say most caterers say to leave 45 minutes to serve entree and clear entree, and an hour to 45 minutes to an hour to do mains.
Yeah.
So if you're kind of like basing your timing around that, I would say that's probably pretty on the money.
Yeah, definitely. So look, I think we can talk about the run sheet and timing for quite a while. But yeah, it moves into the next item quite well, and that's like vendor roles. And we have already touched on like caterers in terms of that aspect, but like what about the MC? Right? What about music? We've touched on how like music and your MC is going to play a significant role in this point. But what's the significance of ensuring that all your vendors are on the same page?
It's huge, right? Like, and if everyone's on the same page, everyone knows your vibe, everyone knows that you want to get on that dance floor early, everyone knows that you want to go out for a night session, whatever that may be. There's nobody like working against each other, and everyone's trying to work on the same thing, like on the same page, and they're trying to work towards the same goal for you. And if everyone's on the same page, you have a clear timeline, you have like a very clear stance in terms of the vibe and the way that you want your night to run, it's going to make the experience so much nicer. Like, oh my goodness.
100%. But there has been some situations where not all your vendors are on the same page because potentially the run sheet isn't clear, or it's not as detailed as it should be. And obviously for things to run smoothly, all your vendors need to be on the same page. Your MC needs to know exactly at what time the speech starts, or what time like dinner's coming out, so then he can plan that accordingly, let everyone know, give people warnings that are outside, or tell people at what stage they need to sit down to start eating. But he also needs to, your MC needs to be aware of the roles of other vendors as well, to give them warnings when things are starting, i.e. your videographer needs some time to set up for speeches, because what happens then if a speech starts, or if potentially you only get like a 1 minute warning? Like, I know there's times where I've had to say, you haven't given me enough of a warning, I'm still setting this up, it's going to take me another couple of minutes. So things can run late in that aspect, and it's just all these minutes that stack up. So having your vendors on the same page by first having a timeline that's completely detailed, that ensures that all your vendors know exactly what to do and there's adequate timing to set up things really makes the dream work.
Absolutely. And having vendors that really align with, what it is that you want from your wedding is going to be extra important during this time, because if there's vendors there that are keen to work for you and with you and have invested in your day, like that is going to make a massive difference because they genuinely care. And we speak about this so much on this podcast about having vendors that align with your vision and having vendors that really like share a common goal and like understand what it is that you want from your day is important. And so, obviously that just rings true again. And there's probably not a whole lot more that we can say about it without repeating ourselves again. So yeah, think about the vendors you have on the day. Make sure you love what they do and trust them.
Definitely. Could not say anything else than that. Just nailed it.
Love it. All right, next one. It's huge. It's a big topic. It's probably... there's so many banging topics on today's episode, but this one's huge too because it definitely does set the scene. And we're talking theme and styling. And wow, I feel like we're probably not the best people to talk in depth about this, but having the right style, the right theme around your reception, it's going to make the experience for your guests a lot nicer. Like, I love it when I watch couples and even guests walk into the reception space and just be like, whoa, this is cool. Sick. Like, and it doesn't necessarily have to be over the top and wild. It doesn't have to be, like too in your face. It may just be something that's clean and crisp and like beautiful flowers and like nice clean table setup. Like there's a lot of variables when it comes to theme and styling for your reception, but make sure it aligns with what you want to do and what your day looks like as a couple.
100%. Like who does not have a bit of a mood board going on to understand what is like the theme or style of like your wedding day? And this is probably something that's going to flow on from like other parts of your day, such as your ceremony, the flowers, the table arrangements, the bouquet. Like it is all going to tie in. And I feel like when it's consistent, it really elevates the experience as well. Like I love coming into a reception and seeing a clean theme. But I also love when sometimes it's a bit different as well.
Absolutely. I shot a reception the other week that I've only ever seen this venue with white tables, and I walked in and they had black tables with black chairs, and I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool, pretty different. And I'm all for like pushing the boundaries a little bit and changing it up and having something different to what you normally would see. So that was definitely a nice little surprise. So I do enjoy walking into a space I've been into a multitude of times and being like, oh, this is different, and I froth on it. And I think I just froth on these things because it is different and people aren't just following the norm or the tradition of what that venue typically would be like.
Yeah. There's a couple of stylists that really know how to, like most stylists do, but I think there's a few that come to mind that can really change like the vibe of an area which you think may not be easily changed. And like there's one venue that comes to mind where I see it and it looks so good looking in different ways, like whether it's like got an Italian vibe or whether it's like a Mediterranean vibe with like fruits and pears and peaches. It looks it's pretty cool. Really love that.
It's the best part about finding your wedding venue too, right? Is like setting up the theme and the vibe in that space.
Well, and obviously, like as creatives, like we're there to like tell a story, right? And if these aspects of the story really like connect like with the couple, like I'm spending so much more time like trying to like encapsulate like how that looks like. And I know like even as something as simple as a table, a chair, the like how the setting is actually set up, what the table looks like, and what are the aspects on the table that the couple have chosen and that the stylists put together to create their vision. It's really interesting how you can make that work in terms of like, especially for their wedding film, like how can you incorporate that into their film, but in a way that is significant to them, not just a standard old here's a couple of frames of like the table.
Yeah. Even I feel like I feel lately Caitlin and Aiden may have done it. They had like Polaroid pictures of all of their guests, like faces, as their like name tag for like where they were sitting. Just like little things like that, I feel like make it just that little bit more personal, a little bit special as well. Like I'm all for just, changing it up a little bit. I don't post enough of that style stuff, but I probably should do more because I do enjoy going in, shooting that when I get the opportunity to, and including that in galleries. So yeah.
Well, leads into the next one, and that is seating arrangement. Obviously, it's a pretty important one when you are planning your wedding, and specifically you're working on the reception. You want to make sure that it can be a bit of a hot topic, but you do want to make sure that the seating arrangement is set up accordingly to what you want. And I feel like it did cause a bit of a rift, I think, with my family when we were planning our wedding. But it's definitely something that can be a touchy subject.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like family scenarios is always a fun one to deal with, and it's not even just necessarily the seating arrangement in terms of like who is sitting next to who. It's even the setup, and going back to the theme and styling again. Like, do you want 3 long tables? Do you want circle tables? Do you want rectangle tables? Do you want them spread apart? Do you want them close together? Do you want to fill the whole space? And then once you've got all that down pat, then you're thinking about specifically who's sitting next to who and how close Auntie Jan is sitting next to Uncle George, and whatever else is going on. And if those two people don't get along very well, you need to take that into account. I have seen a few people do it quite well. Like they've printed off like the picture of the tables, and they've got like post-it notes, and they like put post-it notes in the like spots, and then they will like, once they kind of muck around and move people like in the right spots, they'll then like do a final version online. That works pretty well. That's probably the best one I've seen, I would say. Print off a big layout, have all the names, lay them out accordingly. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so many. Yeah, there's quite a few factors there. What does your venue look like? What is the space? Is it indoor? Is it outdoor? Is it a marquee? It's so many factors there.
What is that? What would you do? This is just for instance, right? Because there is a few people planning weddings in summer. What would you do if you planned your wedding outside in summer? And the forecast, say the day before, it looked a bit iffy. How soon would you make the call? Because we experience this a fair bit in terms of like couples are like either making the call the day before, on the morning of, when we get there, they're still waiting to make the call. What would you do if you were in their position?
So you're saying the day before?
Yeah, so it's the day before and you've looked at the forecast and you're like, you're planning to have your reception outside under the stars. It's summer. It's ripper weather. What are you doing? Are you going to move it inside if the forecast looks a bit dodgy?
Well, what's the backup plan? Like my strongest advice here is to always have a backup plan. Always, whether that looks like a marquee, if it's an open space, if there's the room for it, or is there an indoor area where you can move things inside, or at least mostly inside. What's the location? Where is the venue? What's the normal temperature for that year? So these are factors that obviously will come into play way before the day before your wedding. But the day before your wedding, you've left it a little late.
Are you pushed? But if you have those things, like let's say you've got a wet weather plan inside, are you pulling the pin the day before, or are you going to risk it for the biscuit? What type of human are you? What would you do if it was your wedding?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. If you did have a planner, if this is a decision that you could potentially outsource as well, and
pass
you
the
can
buck.
make a decision, pass the buck. But if you could make a decision, and have a plan of like when is the timeline for that decision to be made, because there has been times where an hour before the ceremony starts, we are going to decide exactly where this ceremony is going to happen based on the weather. And sometimes it comes down to the wire, and there has to be one decision maker.
Yeah.
That absolutely makes that decision.
The hardest part for reception, right, is that like there's a lot of moving parts that you have to move. So I would say typically you're making that decision pretty early on the day of your wedding at the latest. I don't know. I'm a kind of like the day before. If it's looking dodgy, I'd be moving it inside. That's my personal gut feeling. Anyway.
Yeah.
Each to their own.
Yeah, I know if you've had a plan all along for it to be outside, yes, it's heartbreaking, 100%. But I would always be having a backup plan, 100%.
All right, lucky last. We're talking, which we've kind of touched on a little bit, but we're talking catering, we're talking food, we're talking drinks, and how that plays a role in your reception. And there's a lot of moving parts with these things, and as we were saying before, some caterers aren't overly keen on serving food during like speeches and things like that. It all depends on the style of like food service you are doing. So as Tim's mentioned a couple of times, there's your banquet, there's alternate drop, there's like canapé style, there's like so many options for food. It's not funny, and you've just got to kind of take all of these things into account.
Yeah. And what are the drinks like? Is it a venue where drinks are in-house? There's a bar and venue, or perhaps there's a different drink service. Perhaps it's a caravan bar, or there's bar staff that have an outside bar that are there. So there's a couple of different factors into play, but are they separate services? And how is that going to work in between? Do guests need to go to the bar to get drinks? Is there table service? Lots of different factors here.
Absolutely. And, at the end of the day, these things that we've spoken about, like we're just probably running over the surface of them realistically. Like we're not really getting, like we've probably got a bit deep on a few of the things that we're probably extra passionate about, to be honest, but we've still like kind of touched on a lot of them. But I think let's just quickly run through some of the things that we are in control of and some of the things that are out of our control when it comes to like planning and how that can really affect, I guess, our decision making, right? So
no wedding is going to run completely on time. And we spent a lot of, I suppose, this episode talking about timeline and why it really is important to make sure that you have a structure to what you want your wedding reception to look like. But there's things that are outside of your control. The weather, you have there's no control over that. Interruptions, whether that's dad talking too long or food running late and power outages. And power outages happen. It's happened a few times for me.
I've had it happen too. It's so dodgy too.
You had it recently as well, didn't you?
I've had it. Yeah, it's always a fun one. There's like middle of speeches or something, especially being like darker at the moment too, getting darker earlier. Like that's like such a stitch up because we're going by candlelight here. Here we go. Anyway, but there's also the long. Did you say long speeches? I think you did say long speeches. There's a lot of things that that are out of our control, but there are some things that are in control, like that are in our own control. And like I suppose the first and foremost is our attitude, right? It's the attitude that like, if Definitely. We're bringing this good vibes, if we're like, we have the ability to control the experience for ourselves, for our guests, for our vendors, for everybody that's going to be there really. And if attitude's on point, then it's going to make the experience for us so much better. The experience for your guests so much better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who cares if a speech runs a couple of minutes late? Who cares if the dance floor starts a couple of minutes later?
Who cares if your muso plays the wrong playlist?
It's already happened. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't do anything to change it. I wouldn't let one thing ruin your wedding day, ruin your moment. Yes, we want to make sure that we can, plan for these things, ensure it can run smoothly, but on the day, the planning's over. You're there to enjoy your wedding day. You're there just to enjoy the day and the significance of being married with your significant other and your partner. So your priority is just enjoy your day. You've paid your vendors to look after this. Have faith in your vendors to make sure that they can provide a service and provide, like the vibes, and that's going to make sure that your wedding day is as epic as possible.
Absolutely. Love it. And, at the end of the day, trust who you have around you. That's why you have those vendors there. You've got these people in place to lean on them. You've got their, when it comes to like all these things like styling and to timelines and planners and run sheets, and like there's so much that comes into a wedding. And at the end of the day, for us, we are obviously massive fans of making sure that you have people around you who bring you joy, who you can truly trust as well. And as Tim said, regardless of whatever happens, your day is going to be epic. At the end of the day, the result is the same. You're going to be married, you're going to have a party, you are going to have drinks there, there's going to be good food there, you're going to get epic photos, you're going to get amazing videos. It's going to be a good day. So hopefully today's episode has helped you guys just kind of like dive into the reception aspect. It is a massive, massive, massive like aspect of the day, and we can definitely not cover it all in a 1 hour episode, but we hope that we have kind of got your brains flowing in the right direction.
Exactly. Thinking about how you can help make your reception unique to you, but also how can you make your reception epic by doing these things and making sure you can plan for them accordingly.
Yeah, I love it. So take these things into account, make some notes, go back and listen to it. And if you haven't listened to the episodes that we've dropped in the past few weeks, which talks about ceremony and canapes and all of that goodness in between, make sure you go back and check it out, take some notes, try and just give yourselves all of the information possible to make your day epic. But Tim, it's been a pleasure, mate. Until next time.
Always amazing.
We will catch you guys next week for another episode of the Make It Epic Wedding Podcast. We really appreciate you guys listening to us. And until then, bye.
Bye. So, mate, with how many weddings that we've done, how many times have you just seen like an epic like confetti exit, or just like cool fluffy slippers and cool robes and just like different like biodegradable confetti, and you don't know where to get them from?
Every single
wedding.
See it every wedding. Every wedding we see this.
Well, we might be able to help you with that if you are looking for biodegradable confetti, if you're looking for long sparklers, if you're looking for fluffy slippers, confetti cone trays.
I love floppy slippers. Give me some floppy slippers.
And all the things like that can help you on your wedding day just to like elevate that experience a little bit, and just make it easy to get a lot of these things from one place, right? And it's hard to find somewhere that's just, easy to purchase online, get it sent to you, don't have to think about anywhere else, don't have to search anywhere else. You can just listen to this, take a special code, get 15% off, and then boom, these products arrive at your door.
What a dream. How good. So if that sounds like something for you, The Whole Bride is definitely a place you should be checking out. And we have a special promo code for you guys. It is EPIC15. If you go to the show notes, you click that link and then chuck it into your shopping cart at the end, you will receive 15% off just from us, from the Make It Epic Wedding Podcast, which is a just little treat for you guys listening.
15% off. Got to love that.